Hi, I'm Francoise and welcome to Traveling with Francoise. Today we're coming to you from the California Science Center in Los Angeles, spanning more than 400,000 square feet with over 1.7 million annual visitors, home to the Space Shuttle Endeavour, and admission is free. Want to travel? I'll take you there. Want to dine? I'll tell you where. Play golf? I'll pick the spot. Nightlife? I know what's hot. It's never too late to get a life. The California Science Center is billed as the West Coast's largest hands-on science center and is located in Exposition Park in Los Angeles. The museum's history dates back to the first California State Exhibition Building, which opened in Exposition Park in Los Angeles in 1912, the site of an agricultural fairground from 1872 to 1910. As science and technology progressed, so did the interest of visitors. Founded in 1951 as a California Museum of Science and Industry, the museum was remodeled and renamed in 1998 as a California Science Center and hosts the California State Science Fair annually. The current brick and terracotta facility, which opened in February 1998, offers a timeless beauty that will delight visitors for years to come. We're in the lobby here at the California Science Center, an impressive start to our adventure. The first word that comes to mind, and you'll find out why, is interactive. It really is an interactive museum here with things for everyone to do of all ages. Yesterday, I was fortunate enough to be a tourist for about 4 hours, and I still don't think I saw everything. We are so lucky today to tour the California Science Center with the help of Dr. Kenneth Phillips. Hi.
Francoise, welcome.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited. This is my second visit to the California Science Center, and it gets more exciting every single time.
That's good to hear.
Now, how long have you been with the Science Center?
I've been with the Science Center as the curator for aerospace science, same job, for 27 years.
27 years. Well, I think you know a little bit about what's going on.
Just a bit, yeah.
So today I thought our plan was to visit the 4 permanent exhibits.
Okay.
And then we would stop at the new traveling exhibit, Body World.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Now, just so everyone knows, the California Science Center has over 500,000 school kids visit annually. That's a lot of kids.
I think they're all here today.
I think they're here, but how exciting for them to come and experience what you have here, because as I said earlier, so many things are interactive.
Right.
So explain to us what Creative World is about.
Okay, the Creative World is one of 4 major theme areas, and it's about how we build the environment in which we live. So there's 3 components to it. One has to do with structures and architecture, how you make stuff. The other has to do with transportation, moving things about, and the other is communication. Those are the 3 areas within the creative world, because that's what we as human beings do to create our society. On this table, kids can build structures of any height, and they can learn what kinds of forces keep buildings standing as opposed to what structures would cause failures. So these are the structures that they can build. These are the pieces that they can put together. So you can dial the intensity of the earthquake and then see what happens to the structure that you've built.
It's such a hands-on center. I mean, I can't get over that, because for kids and adults,
That's right.
we can learn so much while having a good time, and that's one of the keys, I think, to the California Science
Well, I
Center.
think you do learn well by doing things.
I'm sure the first thing people say is this real?
It's absolutely real.
It's real. Everything
real.
in here, they're real. They're donated to the museum.
Well, it's very interesting. That's an interesting question, because all of the human spacecraft are real because they bring humans back. Now, the deep space planetary probes, for example, anything that goes to Saturn is going to stay caught at Saturn. We'll never get it back. So these are engineering research models that we use to answer questions. This is a flown spacesuit. The one that you see that's white there is an Apollo command module spacesuit. Apollo was the mission that sent astronauts to the moon. So this was the command module pilot's spacesuit. It's from Apollo 16.
Oh.
Yeah, T.K. Mattingly. Mattingly was the astronaut.
So in your space center, your space exhibit, about how many different items do you have that you're showcasing?
Right now we have about 40 items that are on display. That includes the Space Shuttle Endeavour and the major artifacts like the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo command modules that I'll show you. This heat shield that you see right here, it shows what happens when you're trying to blast your way back into the atmosphere. It basically burns up your spacecraft, which is a good thing, because if you design it right, the burned material carries the heat away from the spacecraft.
Ah,
Yeah,
all right. It is. It's very thick too. How thick is it?
It's about 3 inches thick now, and it was about 1.5 inches thicker before. Yes.
This really is incredible. Now, hanging from the ceiling up there. What is this apparatus?
Okay, that apparatus is a completely different type of spacecraft. It's a deep space probe. In other words, this is a probe that we send very far into the solar system, places we cannot as humans go, at least not yet. This is a probe called Cassini, and it orbited Saturn from 2004 until September of 2017, at which point it's going to plunge into the atmosphere of Saturn and it's going to destroy itself.
Welcome back to Traveling with Francoise. Now, when you're doing exhibits such as these, how often do you need to bring in new items to keep them fresh? Or just because many of these are timeless themselves, do they just stay permanently?
We do a combination of things. If it's a basic science principle that isn't going to change, we can keep an exhibit around that demonstrate that basic concept. Like, how does the wind flow across an aircraft wing and make it lift into the air? But if we want to freshen the idea and look at different applications, so now you've got the basic science concepts, they aren't going to change, but let's look at new applications of those concepts over time. That's when we bring in special exhibits. We change artifacts out, we get new aircraft, we get new spacecraft. We do special traveling exhibitions that I'll show you later as an example of that. This is an example of an interactive exhibit. I don't know whether you can make it out, but that kid is flying a jet aircraft, and the message to the exhibit is that there are certain parts of that airplane that control how it moves. You can see the moving surfaces on the airplane.
Now we're heading over to the world of life. And what is that about?
Okay, the world of life is about the common processes that any living thing has to do to stay alive. Whether it's a single cell organism or trillion of cell organism like human beings. This is Tess, who is a body simulator.
Oh, look at this.
The purpose of Tess was to show people how parts of the body work together. So the idea is for you to experience every one of the things that your human body does to keep you in balance when you're playing games or whatever you need to do to get that extra boost of energy.
Next stop, Dr. Phillips, looks to me like it's going to be the ecosystem.
Ecosystems, that's right.
And give us a little overview of what we're going to see in there.
So this is an introductory experience. It gives an overview of what you're going to see when you're in this area. So it's about a 3.5-minute film, and it covers very briefly each of the 11 zones. So this is a desert zone we happen to be in now. And you notice that deserts, they're hot, they're extreme, they're dry. And life has adapted to withstand those conditions. Poles, another extreme zone, but they're cold. This is the global zone. Planet Earth, the entire global cycles of air and water come together here at the global schedule. There's the fluke of a whale you can see. They travel the oceans globally. These are terrestrial biota on Earth. You know, we showed you the aquatic, which is the whale,
right,
which is a marine mammal. Well, butterflies and insects. So you mentioned the deserts. Why don't we go visit one?
All right.
Okay, we're going to go to a Sonoran desert. We'll enter the desert area, and what you'll notice is we've themed it like a desert, but it's like a desert where a research team has come up and set up for shop. So you see this shed in here. This is your laboratory as a researcher. So you're coming into the desert and you're studying the animals, and the first thing you notice is we have thermal cameras here because some animals are warm-blooded, some animals are cold-blooded. And so we have a thermal signature. In other words, this reads the temperature of the animals, and you could actually see yourself as this gentleman is doing. In a thermal mapping, you'll see the parts of your face that are warmer, the parts that are colder. And so all of the animals that live in this enclosure, we're capable of analyzing them and the temperature that comes off them, because we can see whether they're hot-blooded animals, warm-blooded animals, or cold-blooded.
Well, I can feel in here the heat, that you have this room a little bit warmer. It's not beastly hot, but it is a little bit warmer.
Okay, so there you are. You should be
here
operating.
I am. Well, what is that telling?
Okay, that's telling you that, for example, your face is a little bit warmer, your hair is cooler, the ends of your hair, which make perfect sense, are in the air stream, so the air is even cooling that more than the other hair. So this is a temperature map, and this is my hand coming in. You can see the ring on, so the ends of my fingers, yeah.
Yeah, and then here, our camera. Look how warm that is. Right. And the monitor, look how warm the monitor is.
If you take my eyeglasses and put them on, Okay, and you look into the camera, you see the eyeglasses are cool. That's reflecting the heat.
Oh,
right?
Isn't that something? Yeah. Oh, there he is.
So now we see him moving. You see his signature? Mm-hmm. And so he isn't emitting much radiation. He's a cold-blooded animal. In fact, he may find himself under one of our sun lamps that we've created so that his temperature will increase. That's how he regulates his body temperature. So this is a flash flood, and the flash flood occurs every 15 minutes. Flash floods are very dangerous if you want to get a little closer.
So this is showing the kids and the adults how quickly a flash flood can come on, because a lot of people don't think, they don't believe the fact that they can come very quickly.
Very quickly, as you'll see here.
Whoa, look at that. Wow. Of course, yeah. All right. Dr. Phillips, this is probably a favorite of all the kids. Besides the Endeavour, I can't wait to see the Endeavour, but the kelp forest. What are we going to be seeing in the kelp forest? Because it looks beautiful from here.
Okay, we're going to see some exhibits that show you how to deconstruct a kelp forest so you know what's in it. It has certain components. That's a touch tank. You see the line of kids, many of whom are waiting to just touch the animals. This is an ecosystem that is an extreme zone because the tide pools are sometimes dry, they're sometimes wet, and then the tide has such energy when it splashes against the animals that they have to be able to cling to where they live without being washed away.
And of course, this is a big highlight for everyone to see inside the tank that we were just standing up on top. All right.
So this is just a different part of the kelp tank. You can see this rock structure along the side we were asking. This is where we were upstairs. We were on the other side of that rock structure with a little shallow area where the tide pools are. Had we walked across the tide area and then dove across that, we would be down into this area. There's where we were standing. This is our main viewing tank. And you can see we have what's called a bait ball, that school of fish that you see there, or a bait for some of the other fish. And they will tend to go in a circular motion. Sometimes they get in a very tight circle. Some of the larger fish, our sea bass here, love to hang down in the lower corner.
Those are sea bass at the bottom?
Yep, those are giant sea bass. Of course, we have the Garibaldi, which is the California state fish. That's the bright orange fish that you see there.
Looks like a big goldfish.
It does, and there's another one up there. And you'll see sharks that cruise through from time to time. So you'll notice what the kelp is doing. A healthy kelp forest always has motion. That motion is absolutely critical. You see the kelp is gently swaying from side to side.
And I see some fish are hiding in the kelp and others not.
That's exactly right.
Welcome back to Traveling with Francoise. Dr. Phillips, I remember when Los Angeles, and probably the world, was mesmerized by Endeavour. They were bringing Endeavour down the streets of Los Angeles here to the California Science Center. Now we're going to see the Endeavour shortly, but before we do, this exhibit is a prelude to what we're going to see when we see the actual space shuttle. So what is it? What is this exhibit called?
Okay, it's called Endeavour Together, the People and the Parts. Because Endeavour is one part of a space shuttle. A space shuttle is the Endeavour, which is the orbiter, plus the large external tank that gave the orbiter its fuel, plus the two very large solid rocket boosters. That's called a full stack. And so we want people to understand how that stack is assembled. Endeavour is but one piece of it. This happens to be the set of tires that Endeavour actually flew on its last mission. So this is the only part of Endeavour that we encourage people to touch. And the main tires, they're only used once. You notice they have no tread, because tread adds weight. And the idea for moving into space is you want to lift minimal amounts of weight, because it's hard to get stuff up there.
All right, and I noticed one actually lost some.
That's right, it lost a lot of the tread. And if you look at the picture behind you, you'll see that tire on the left hit the ground first. It was the first to be compressed. This is where the astronauts would prepare their food on Endeavour. It's called the galley or the sorg, and what it does, it shows you there's a tortilla in there. Well, tortillas are nutritious, and they also have the ability of confining food so that it doesn't float around and crumble in a microenvironment. Because you can imagine all of these particles, and you think you're in a weightless environment, and everything is floating. So if you had like a saltine cracker that had crumbled up, it's liable to get sucked up into the air conditioning systems, So in order to prevent that, so they can control their food, not let it get away from them, this is one of the very nutritious sorts of foods that astronauts can eat.
Hello everyone, I'm going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich from the International Space Station. Every time we eat, it's kind of fun. Everything will float around if you don't manage it. So we have some tape to stick things on our table here, as well as a bunch of Velcro. All right, so the first thing we need for our sandwich is a piece of bread. Well, up here we don't have bread like you do on Earth, but we have tortillas. So we use tortillas a lot for sandwiches. So that's what I'm going to use for my peanut butter and jelly. I'm going to stick that down to some tape here so it doesn't go floating away while I'm getting everything else ready. So I'll get my peanut butter out, and even the lids on the peanut butter have a piece of Velcro on it so they don't go floating away. If I let it go, it'll kind of just float there for a little while, and then eventually the air conditioning system in here will take it away somewhere else. So I don't want to lose it, so I'm going to stick it on the table. I'll scoop out some peanut butter for my sandwich. I got to stick this somewhere, otherwise it just goes floating away too. But just for now, if it's just a few seconds like this, I can just leave it, let it float. I'll spread the peanut butter on my sandwich, onto the tortilla. And then I'll get my jelly ready. See, a lot of things you got to think about and manage while you're eating up here. And you just spread the jelly on the sandwich. That as well needs to get attached to the table. So there's my peanut butter and jelly tortilla or sandwich. From up here, I'll just kind of close it up and enjoy. See if you guys can enjoy it as it's coming to you.
Dr. Phillips, now we were at a real highlight of the California Science Center. Everything we've seen so far has been incredible, but of course this now is the home of the Endeavour, the Space Shuttle Endeavour, and what I would say quite an accomplishment, first of all, to get the Endeavour to come to the California Science Center, and now to be on display, it just makes my heart pound.
This is a temporary display of the Space Shuttle Endeavour. It's horizontal. Ultimately, we're going to display it vertically as a full stack, with the world's only flight-certified remaining external tank, and then also the 2 solid rocket boosters. That's a future display. But right now we have it horizontally. You can actually walk under it, so we'll be able to walk under it and examine the tiles. And you'll see the engines, the Space Shuttle main engines. In addition to the shuttle itself, we have a main engine that's on display pulled out of the vehicle, and we have something called a Space Habitat. Space Habitat was a pressurized module that could go inside the payload bay of the shuttle. You could use it for experiments, you could use it for logistics, meaning you're schlepping things back and forth to the International Space Station.
Now, I was told that each tile is numbered. Is that true?
That's correct. In fact, you might be able to get a shot of that. Each tile is numbered, and each has its own specific position on the shuttle. No 2 tiles are alike. The ones that are darker have only flown once or fewer times than the ones that are more oxidized. So that's why some look gray and some look black.
Is it larger inside than what you envisioned, or was it definitely more smaller and compact?
It depends on where you are. If you see look at the E there. You see the word Endeavour on the side of the vehicle? Okay. Next to the E, you'll see a line that goes up. That's the payload bay. Okay, the payload bay has the hinges. All of that is for cargo. The entire living space for the astronaut was forward of the E.
That's it?
That's it, on 2 levels. Right. The upper level is called the flight deck, and the lower level is called the mid-deck. And the astronauts, they went to the bathroom, they ate, they did exercise. Occasionally they would do research or whether they had to do on the mid-deck of the shuttle. And they controlled it with the instruments that would basically fire rocket thrusters from the flight deck. These are the main engines on the shuttle. There are 2 smaller engines above engines number 2 and 3 at the top. You see those smaller engines?
I do see that.
Those are called orbital maneuvering engines. When it's time to come home, they turn the space shuttle backwards. It's flying backwards, and they fire those engines just enough to break the speed of the shuttle, about 200 miles an hour. And then it starts to descend and get ready to come into the atmosphere. So they very slowly turn it around again so that the nose faces the atmosphere. And then it starts to pick up the outer fringes of the atmosphere. It starts to glow red hot. And then after all the friction is pretty much gone away and it's moving slow enough, it's controllable as an airplane. You see the arrow, the yellow arrow,
yes.
And it looks like a horseshoe type entry area. That's where the crew went into and out of the vehicle.
Right there.
That's right.
I thought they went in and out of the payload.
Oh, not at all. This is external tank 94, ET-94. And the reason it exists is because ET-93 was the sister tank of 94. And during the Columbia launch in 2003, a piece of foam fell off of ET-93, hit the leading edge of the shuttle's wing, that was Columbia, and caused the accident that I mentioned to you earlier.
I got you.
So instead of flying this tank, they used it for engineering analysis, and you'll see there's certain points on the tank where we've carefully removed the foam coating just to see if we can understand a little bit more about why that accident occurred and then to prevent future accidents. And so you'll see carefully removed sections of the foam. So they never flew this tank. They use it for engineering analysis, which it turns out was a good thing for us because it's a structurally sound, flight-certified tank, and it's basically the center structure around which everything else is going to be built. It's about 150 feet in length, and it's about a 30-foot diameter tank.
And it holds hydrogen and oxygen.
It holds hydrogen and oxygen in separate components. That's right.
And at some point, I would gather they mix. Do they?
Oh yeah, but what happens is if you look, it's an excellent question. There's a pipe that goes from the inner part of the oxygen tank, the lower part, all the way down the length of the tank and into the shuttle. They're called fuel filler doors, fuel doors. And then there's a smaller pipe that goes from the bottom of the hydrogen tank into the shuttle, because that's the bottom part of the tank that's near where the back of the shuttle is. You can see where it is on the photograph. And they mix inside the rocket engines that I mentioned to you. You don't want to mix it until you're ready to actually ignite the engines and fly. And the interesting thing about the shuttle, particularly for me, is that it really is a demonstration of what you can accomplish when you have a focused goal and you've got smart people that don't give up because things go wrong. And that program flew pretty much successfully for 30 years. It's amazing.
And don't forget the gift shop. We know me, I love a gift shop, a good gift shop. And this is just one of the two inside the center. Dr. Phillips, we have seen technology, space, ecosystems, a reef, a kelp reef, living animals, humans, everywhere. But what we have not seen is the new exhibit that you have called Body Worlds, which I said earlier is taking the world by storm. You have it right here at the Science Center.
What you're going to see are plastinates such as the one in this image that show the human body from the inside out. Now the reason that's chosen is because the human body has a number of systems. There's a circulatory system, there's a digestive system, there's a nervous system, and there are things that you can do to facilitate a healthy body. And there are things that you can do that really take away from your human health. And these plastinates are especially chosen to show how we can embellish our health by the way we eat, by the way we exercise, by the things we do. So it really is educating us and empowering us on how we can live much longer and much healthier lives.
The Exposition Park Rose Garden, just outside of the main building of the California Science Center, was established in 1927. It contains 15,000 bushes, 145 different varieties in all. It's a beautiful place to go for a walk, enjoy the fountain, and perhaps have some lunch. For those that are daring, don't miss the high wire bicycle ride on the 3rd floor. I did it, and it is a ton of fun. The Science Center is open to the public daily from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with free general admission to its permanent exhibit galleries. Parking is $12, and here's a tip. If you go during the school year, remember to go after 2 p.m. when most of the school kids are hopping on the buses and heading out of town. And also, there are restaurants inside the center, so you can have lunch, breakfast, whatever you like. Well, it's time to head home, and I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did filming it. So until next time, be sure you hop in the car, be adventurous, have some fun, and remember, it's never too late to get a life. See you next time.